Guys, welcome back to NationalHighSchoolFootball.com. Listen, I'm your host, Larry Godwin. On the screen with me is my counterpart, Joe Mamone with Prep Gridiron Logistics. You guys know that pretty face by now. The other side of the screen is no stranger to the show, head coach Jason Negro with the St. Bosco, I messed that up, St. John Bosco Braves. He's joining us from Bellflower, California. Coach, I don't know how I messed that up. As often as you've been on the show, you're certainly a friend of the show. You're no stranger to the show, and welcome back, and congratulations on a huge win over St. Francis Academy. So welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Thanks, Joe, for having me. I really appreciate you guys and offering up this platform for us to talk about high school football. It's certainly growing, and it's still probably one of the most popular sports in America. So it's really cool to be able to come on here and share a little bit about our program and what we're trying to do out here on the West Coast.
Absolutely.
So, Larry, me and Coach have a special anniversary this month. He doesn't even know it.
Uh-oh.
So 10 years ago, I started my company.
Yeah.
And the first event I ever did was September 26th, 2015. We were celebrating Don Bosco's 100th anniversary in New Jersey. My son was there at the time. And we put together a doubleheader event where Jason in the undercard beat the crap out of St. Peter's Prep from New Jersey. And then in the main event, Don Bosco beat Archbishop Rummel out of New Orleans.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I knew him. Our paths crossed, and ever since it's been a great relationship.
How many years was that?
10.
10 years. Whew, time flies.
Yeah, that's Larry. It's the first event I ever put on.
That was a great event. I mean, obviously, if you've ever had an opportunity to be at Don Bosco Prep and see that field and kind of walk up that driveway up to the top landing there, great event. Great atmosphere there, kind of tucked away in the trees. First time for us, and it was cool because it was historical. Not only are we brother schools in terms of we still serve under the patron saint of Don Bosco, but it was their 100th year and it was our 75th year.
Yeah.
And then this year happens to be our 85th year. And, I guess it's their 110th going over there. So great event. Joe and I have been friends ever since. And I think every single year from that year forward, we've been able to schedule games and get people to come out here. And we've been all over the country. And I think it's only added to, what we have been able to try to accomplish here in Bellflower. And it's put us on the map. And I could not be more thankful to have the partnership and the relationship we've had, Joe, over these years.
Right back at you. Hey Coach, was that your first out-of-state game, or you had done a few before then?
No, we had done a few before that. We had a president that started the same year that I did in 2010, and we got an opportunity. It's ironic, actually. We got an opportunity in 2012 to play in Utah in a doubleheader event, and we played against what was the name of the team? Jordan High School out of Sandy, Utah. And then Alta High School, and we were the undercard.
And the other Bosco?
Yep.
I remember that.
The main event was Don Bosco Prep from Jersey. So we spent a lot of time. I got to meet Coach Toll during that time.
Yep.
That was our first out-of-state trip in 2012. We played Chandler from Arizona in 2013. In 2014, we went out to Hawaii to play St. Louis, where Tua Tagovailoa was the quarterback.
Wow.
So, and every year since then, I think we've only missed 1 year during that time period, and that was the year we opened the stadium in 2018 here in Bellflower that we didn't travel. But I think we played in like 12 different states, and we've played like 35 games against out-of-state opponents since I've been here.
How many losses? We know the latest one, Kahuku, in that crazy officiated game. But how many losses do you have out of state?
We're 30. You know what's funny? And the only reason why I know this is because during the game on Friday night, they put a graphic up because they were streaming the game from Max Preps. We're 31-4. 31-4. And the four losses, we lost to Bishop Gorman twice, to Tate Martell when they were one in the country both times. Because Tate Martell never lost a high school football game. Right. We lost to St. Thomas Aquinas in 2017 down in Florida. In a game that was actually 3-3 at the end of regulation.
Wow.
Was that like a monsoon type game?
Yeah, it was a hurricane on the heels of a hurricane. And then we lost the game in 2023 against Kahuku in Hawaii. Yeah. Suspect, but nevertheless, 31-4 against nationally ranked opponents is not too bad out of state.
That's great.
Well, Coach, It's fun to go down memory lane. You guys are no stranger to winning. You won easy games. You won incredibly difficult games. This past weekend, you had a pretty difficult game against that. If I had to write a headline going into that game, previewing the game, it would have been something like Clash of the Titans, right? You got Bosco number 2 in a lot of polls, St. Francis number 4 in a lot of polls. Coach, you've been in some big games before, right? So what was the atmosphere like on the sidelines right before kickoff between these two behemoths?
I think there was a lot of anxiety, at least from the coaching staff. Certainly, if you were to watch St. Francis, get off the bus and go through pregame, they certainly win that. The look of their athletes and the type of talent that they have in that football program is incredibly elite. And then Masai Harriman does an amazing job of coaching. He's got a really, good staff, and they've had a lot of cohesion and consistency over the last few years, which I think has really helped them and kind of propelled them into the national spotlight. They're certainly not afraid to play anybody, anywhere, anytime. Yeah. And it's probably one of the teams that I respect most across the country, because if you know anything about their program and their school and the challenges that they have to deal with up in the Baltimore area, for them to be able to assemble and put the team together that's composed, that plays the game the right way. They're incredibly disciplined in the way that they approach things, and then to have to travel as much as they do because people just don't have the opportunity to go out to Maryland to play. It's certainly spectacular what he's been able to accomplish. So there's anxiety, but there's a lot of excitement as well. Anytime you have an opportunity to play the top, 5-ranked team, 4th-ranked team in the country, at your place in front of your home crowd early in the season, when, theoretically it matters in terms of the mythical national title if you're, able to win a championship down the road. Right. But at the outset of the goal of a coach is to prepare your team for what lies ahead, in the league and the playoffs. And St. Francis certainly, gave us that chance to be able to go out there and test our skill set against some of the best athletes and well-coached team in America.
So, Larry, I don't know if you saw the stat, but on the field that night, there were 76 players between both teams with D1 offers. St. John Bosco had 39 and St. Francis had 37. So basically it was a college football game we watched.
Pretty much.
Yeah, we said that. People were asking me about, because some of the people locally are like, well, who's St. Francis? Where are they from? Type thing. And they don't follow it as closely as we do. But, I had some family members that came to the game and they were like, oh, is this team any good? And I'm saying, oh, well, wait till you see them, come out of the tunnel. And then, the size and just the enormity of the game. And they're just built different there in the upper East Coast there. So a lot of talent. It was a college football game like we talked about. And it was just fun because I think both teams had a ton of respect for each other. We battled incredibly hard. They took the lead there late in the 3rd quarter, and then we scored 14 points in the 4th quarter to kind of put it away. But certainly made us a better football team. And I talked to Masai Saturday morning after he already returned back to Baltimore, and nothing but pleasantries back and forth between two really good, teams who are well coached. And, I wished him the best of luck, and he did the same. And I'm certain, down the road over the next couple of years, we owe them a trip out to Baltimore.
Yeah. So, Coach, let's talk about that comeback that you had. I'm going to back you up a little bit. You go down to Florida to start the season at Manatee. You get a half of football in a dominant performance, right? Then you follow that up against an Eastwood team. You had a pretty easy win there as well. Then you take on St. Francis, number 4 team, a very good team. We all agree to that. You find yourself down after 3 quarters, 14-7. So to describe it as a comeback is an understatement. But I'm just interested, what did you learn about your team after that comeback?
Well, surprisingly to me, last year might have been, my staff's best job coaching, I thought. We were so incredibly young. We started a freshman quarterback. There was multiple times during the season defensively where we had 7 sophomores and a couple freshmen on the field at one time. We had a very small class last year, but what was really encouraging for me is last year's team, we had multiple comebacks and we were able to overcome some adversity. And we ended up the season 11-2 and only lost to Mater Dei twice, who went wire to wire number 1. So, and we actually had an opportunity to beat them in the last part of the season in the finals. But when that happened, I was hoping that we would get some carryover because we're still a relatively, young and inexperienced football team this year. So when we were to fall behind, you always look for signs where kids are starting to question, or, there's some animosity maybe that creeps up on the sidelines, or some self-doubt, but we didn't see any of that. Our kids kind of bound together. They really, didn't look at the scoreboard. They just continued to play football, and they knew as long as there was enough time on the clock, they were going to be able to mount a comeback and put enough plays together in order to win the football game. So to me, the characteristics at which we learned last year carried over to this year, and hopefully we're going to see more of that as the season progresses.
And Coach, on our nationalhighschoolfootball.com board, obviously there were live updates the whole night during your game, and at the end of the game, it was pretty unanimous. People were saying the team whose quarterback played the best won. Tell us about your sophomore quarterback, Koa. He was 14 for 26 for 275, 3 touchdown passes, and he's only a sophomore. Yeah. Tell us more about him.
I mean, the poise and the approach and the preparation that he puts in each and every week, and then the savvy that he shows on a game night. I mean, if you were to see St. Francis's defense, it's probably one of the best in the country. Year in and year out. And they got 5-star DN on one end and a 5-star safety and a 4-star D end on the other end. And Koa was unflappable. He basically went into the game, and we had an incredible game plan. Our offensive coordinator, Stephen Lowe, did a phenomenal job of scheming up a protection that was going to allow him to get the ball in his hands and get it out to our playmakers as fast as possible. And that's what we were able to do. And the one thing that I really appreciate about Koa is he's got a tremendous amount of belief and understanding in what we're trying to accomplish offensively. And he doesn't deviate too far from the game plan. I think that's where young quarterbacks sometimes, make their mistakes, as they panic and then they're all of a sudden trying to make plays. And he doesn't do that. He stays calm, and he's able to deliver the ball to the right people at the right time and make the correct decisions. He's an incredible processor, once the ball is snapped, pre-snap and then post-snap. And so I cannot say enough about him, but it's not just him, from the coaching staff to what we did up front with the offensive lineman. He didn't get touched the entire night. No sacks against that football team is absolutely phenomenal.
And the play calling too, that first touchdown, the pass to Malik Allen, the entire St. Francis defense was going one way. He threw it right back, and he jogged into the end zone. Great play calling on that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, Coach, one more question about Koa. I was looking over the stats for this game, and 279 yards passing really stands out. And then I got curious and went back and looked at his stats on the season. Something that really stood out, in modern day football, you expect a lot of, dual threat quarterbacks. Is what a lot of coaches look for nowadays. But Koa doesn't seem to run a lot. What's his QB style? Is he a drop back passer, or are you trying to protect him on purpose and not get him involved in the rushing game as much? What's his style?
Now, it's funny, Larry, that you say that, because he's not a true dual threat guy, but he has the ability to play in an RPO system is what we are.
That's right.
And it's funny because we've had some center to quarterback exchange problems this year. And Koa, I was looking at his stats actually from the St. Francis game, and I knew that he didn't have any sacks, but he had negative yards rushing. Mm-hmm. Well, we had twice during the game where there were bad snaps that he had to run back and fall on for like a 10-yard loss, a 12-yard loss. We had one in the Manatee game, which was like a 15-yard loss. So those add on to your rushing stats. So unfortunately, Koa's got 50-something yards and losses over the last 3 games. And that's one area of our football team that we have to drastically fix, because, when you get into these big football games, you don't have the luxury of being able to, snap the ball, 15 yards and fall on it and things like that. So it's a little deceiving if you look at him statistically, but he is a guy that is, capable enough of running the football and playing the zone read game. And delivering the ball through the RPO system like we run.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Coach, I'm an Auburn fan. My son's a junior there. I'm getting really nervous for when Madden Williams goes to A&M.
I know
he plays the Tigers.
Right.
Tell us more about him. He had a phenomenal game, 8 catches, 193 for a touchdown. What kind of player and leader is he?
He's obviously one of our best, most talented football players. He's a 4-year guy for us, and he just continues to get better year in and year out. And I think he's playing this season with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I don't think he had a lot of the preseason hype that he maybe deserved. And sometimes when that's a situation with a guy that's that elite and that competitive, when you play in your biggest games and you need your superstars to step up to help, elevate your performance on any given Friday night, you want it to come from the guys that are your best players. And he certainly was able to do that on Friday. Like you said, I think he had 7 catches for 150 something and, a touchdown, and he probably could have had another one. He got tackled on the one. Ball was a little bit underthrown, and the DB had time to catch up. But, he's a leader. He's probably the most, probably the best route runner that we have. He's got great hands. He's not a 50-50 ball guy. He's probably more like a 70-30 when it comes down to it. And he's an ultimate competitor. He wants to be challenged against some of the best DBs in the country. And obviously by the teams that we have to play and the skills that we have on the defenses of the opponents that we play against, he's going to get that chance. And hopefully he's going to continue to deliver throughout the season.
And Coach, apparently he's not by himself. He's got some help in that receiving core. Looked up some stats. Tell us about Daniel Odom and DJ Tubbs. Seems like 2 receivers that are up and coming. One's a senior, one's a sophomore.
Right. So Daniel Odom's an Oklahoma commit. He's another 4-year guy for us here at Bosco, and he's probably the most physically gifted receiver that we have. He's a big, tall, lanky guy. He can blow the top off the defense. He's got incredible hands. He complements Madden very well. And he's got an elite skill set as well. And then if you look at DJ Tubbs, he's only a sophomore, but him and Koa came in together. They played youth ball together. They got incredible chemistry, the two of them. And it seems just like the ball always finds them. And if you're going to try to double Madden or you're going to try to double Daniel Odom or try to do any type of bracket coverage in, Tubby's going to be able to be matched up against backers and some underneath coverage, and he's going to be able to make plays. He's got, and again, another guy with elite skill set. And then this last week, Carson Clark came back, who is a senior wide receiver for us. He's he's a 4th guy, not the number 4, but he's the 4th guy in that rotation when we go 10 personnel. And he's another slot receiver, but he's incredibly versatile, and he complements the other 3 as well. We got maybe one of the best receiving cores that we've ever had here in Bosco. Maybe I go back to our 2019 team when DJ was a senior. Might be a close number 2, but this might be one of the best.
Joe, listen, I think I have figured out the perfect name to describe Coach Negro's offense.
What's that?
This will make a lot of sense if you're a Marvel Comics fan. He runs a Hydra offense. You cut the head off of one, he's got like 7, 8, 10 other tentacles ready to go.
It's funny you say that. We didn't even mention the running backs, and we got 3 guys that are equally talented. Malik Allen, was sophomore last year, and I think he made a couple All-American lists. Super talented guy, one of the fastest running backs, and we're really good up front. So we've got a lot of talent, and it's really, a positive thing for us offensively, because if you try to take something away, then we're versatile enough to be able to, hit you in another area. And, and again, that goes back to the play calling. It goes back to the preparation and the scouting that goes in during the week with the offensive staff and all the work that they do to try to prepare our kids. And then the guys just go out there and they're willing to execute. They don't worry about stats. They don't worry about touches. And they just want to win football games. And as long as we're able to do that, then we have a lot of positivity running in our direction.
See, Joe, Hydra offense, it fits.
And you didn't even know this, Larry. Did you know for 5 or 6 years, I was the director of sales at Marvel Entertainment?
Is that right?
Yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Connect the dots, man. It's a small world.
Yep. Let's talk about going forward, Coach.
Okay.
You're playing in the best league in America. Many think, I believe, obviously. Still a lot of games left.
Mm-hmm.
I think 7 to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what you're expecting in the Trinity League. Years past, it's always been you two at the top, you and Modern Day. Servite was in there several years ago. They had a great senior class. Then Olu last year. Now everybody's jumping on the Santa Margarita wagon. Tell us your perspective of the league this year and what you have coming up?
Well, I mean, I've been here for 16 years. I'm actually the longest tenured coach in this league now that Bruce has moved on and, from modern day. But I think the league is as strong as it's ever been. Certainly, we kind of took a major shift probably in, I don't know, it was probably 2016, 17 is when the modern day really kind of exploded. We had beaten them 6 straight times, and they're like, man, we can't handle this. We got to change how we're doing things over here. And we need to, kind of focus our attention a little bit more in some different areas. And they kind of balanced it out over the next, 8 to 9 years. But this league is, it's basically an iron sharpens iron type mentality. You got 6 coaches that are all incredibly good at what they do. And in terms of preparing high school football teams, they got college guys, NFL guys. Carson Palmer obviously is at Santa Margarita. There's no shortage of coaching, out here in the Trinity League. And then if you take a look at the volume of athletes that we have here in California, and the elite ones, the competitive ones want to come to schools like ours because we're giving them the best platform possible to be able to go out there and to build their brand. That's what's happening nowadays. If you take a look at NIL and what is happening and looking at stars and stuff like that, well, how do you go get stars? Well, you better play in a program that's going to allow you to play a team like St. Francis or a team like Thomas Aquinas, a team like Miami Northwestern, all of these national opponents. That's going to allow you to build equity in your own personal brand. And it's just naturally kids want to come and be a part of programs like ours. So if you assemble the most talent, you got some of the best coaching, got great facilities and resources that are all around you, it really makes sense. And then because so many people around us in our general vicinity, just won't play us, it forces us now to have to go play these national opponents. But what they don't really realize is the fact that it only makes us stronger. Yes. It makes more kids want to come to our schools, and it depletes the talent maybe around them. And so it's kind of been a storm that has happened. And a lot of people out there that really don't understand or don't know what's the landscape and what we have to do and how we have to, work within our own 4 walls in our buildings on our campuses. There's so many theories out there, but, I will tell you this, this league is hyper competitive, and there's a lot of talent, whether it's in the coaching staffs or in the players. And we go out there and play some really good football teams. And we're just trying to do what everybody else is doing and trying to get kids the opportunity to get to the next level.
Coach, let me ask you about that. I was talking to a buddy of mine earlier today. I was telling him that I get a chance to interview you tonight. And he said, do you mind if I ask you to ask Coach Negro a question? I said, sure. So he sent me a couple of questions. One of them was an excellent question. So here's what he said. You talked about players, developing and getting to the college level, that kind of stuff. What would be your advice to players trying to get noticed by colleges? Is it to gravitate to schools that are on a high-profile schools? Is it to attend more camps? How would you advise these kids that are coming up to high school that desperately want to get a recruiter's attention?
Well, the number one thing that I would always advise kids, and you have to now advise parents, because the parents are the ones that are kind of driving the branding and the likeness and the images of these kids nowadays. The number one thing that you have to try to get across to them that I think is the most important is patience, especially if you come to a school like ours. We have a lot of talent, from the freshman class all the way up to the senior class. And what has happened now is there's so many kids, because a lot of these kids nowadays are holding back. So they're starting high school at a year older. So they think coming in, I'm a sophomore, so I can be able to step in at Bosco as a freshman, even though I'm sophomore age, and I'm going to go right to the varsity and I'm going to start and I'm going to get all this film and I need film now. Well, those are fallacies. You don't need that. We've had plenty of kids that have gone through our program and naturally developed their skill set, their size, their frame of their bodies, in the game of football, the knowledge that they're going to have to learn in order to go be successful when they get to college. And I think that what I talk to parents about nowadays is having patience, understanding that just because you're a freshman or a sophomore and you're not getting a lot of, run, or you don't get the playing time that you think that you should get because there's a 4 or 5 star senior in front of you, and he doesn't want to share those reps with you. You just need to have patience. So I think that's the greatest thing. And then in terms of the overall development, I think what colleges are doing with camps, and I'm not a huge fan of 7-on-7, but with the marketability and the exposure and social media of these 7-on-7 tournaments and everything that's happening, kids are taking advantage of it, and they're being able to build this library or this data of their skill sets and their play against some of these other opponents across the country in whatever event it might be in, and they're able to share that information so much easier nowadays because it's at the tip of everybody's fingers. So it's a combination of a lot of things, but what I like to try to stress to our families is, listen, play the long game. You're not going to be able, even if you're given a scholarship as a freshman, you're not going to be able to cash that thing in until you're a senior, till you accomplish all of your academic goals, which is going through your 16 core classes, having above a 2.3 GPA, behaving during those 4 years, staying out of trouble, and then backing all of those things up with the play on the field is going to allow you to obtain that college scholarship. So don't be in a hurry is probably the biggest advice I'd give people.
So I kind of paraphrase what you said in the 3 bullet points, because Joe knows that's what I do by now. So patience, develop skills while you're waiting, and then really you got to develop savvy social media skills at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's powerful. Social media is incredibly powerful nowadays, and a lot of these kids are using it. I mean, we've had kids that have been in our program that weren't frontline starters, that were backups, that are playing football in the Midwest at a Division II school, getting money to pay, to play there from the institutions, because they're going up against guys that are 4 or 5 stars, on the other side of the ball in practice here. So it's a very powerful tool. It could be dangerous as well, because sometimes if you put your stuff out there and it's not what people want to see, you're going to expose yourself. So you got to be cautious. But again, these kids are pretty savvy with their social media skills. And if they use it in the right way, it could only enhance their ability to play at the college level.
Hey, Coach, I got a question. It might be a little loaded. I already know the answer, but I want to see how you want to answer it. Mm-hmm. Do you foresee any non-Trinity League program winning the Open Division this decade?
Anything's possible, Joe. Honestly, I think right now, if you look at the Southern section alone, there's some really talented football teams that also have very good coaching. John Ellinghaus and what he's doing at Sierra Canyon is pretty spectacular. I mean, they've played 3 football games. They've had 3 shutouts. We played them a year ago. It was a tight ball game all the way into the 4th quarter. They've outscored their opponents, I think, 145-0. He's done a phenomenal job there. They got talent everywhere. So you got to look at Sierra Canyon. I think what Chad Johnson's doing over at Mission Viejo is pretty impressive as well. They're 3-0. They played 2 really good football teams in Folsom and Santa Margarita. They've got enough talent, I think, if they could stay healthy. The hardest part that I don't think a lot of these teams have to endure through the course of a season is, going through and having the depth, especially up front, offense and defensive lines, and having enough bodies to be able to go through an entire Trinity League schedule and then go through a playoff schedule to be able to accomplish that. And one of those teams is probably going to have to beat a Bosco and a Mater Dei back to back in order to get that done. And I mean, that's a tall task, or a Bosco, a Santa Margarita, and a Mater Dei, or an Olu. They're going to have to beat 2 or 3 Trinity League teams. Like last year, our playoff run went, 5 straight games against Trinity League opponents. Then we had to play Santa Margarita in the first round of the playoffs, which is again repeat performance. Then we had to play Orange Lutheran in the semis and beat them, and then we had to beat Mater Dei just to get to the state title game. So that's 8 games in a row against, or 7 games or 8 games in a row against Trinity League opponents, and who can survive that? And we were an onside kick away from possibly running down and tying the game and going for 2 for the win. So that's why when I look at it, our kids are kind of built for this. I don't know if anybody else in the country has to go through a stretch of 8 games in a row against that talented of football teams.
Coach, do all the teams in the Trinity League play a national schedule like you and Mater Dei?
Not everybody.
Not everybody.
No,
No,
Santa Margarita. They're playing. I think they played Gorman. They're trying. Orange Lutheran went to Miami to play Northwestern.
And they hosted St. Francis last year. It was a close game.
So Olu is doing it. I don't think Servite or Jay Sarah has played anybody on the national side. Jay Sarah a couple years ago.
They used to
coach
when they had that old NFL player coach. What was I forget his name?
Pat Harlow.
Yeah, we dealt with him. We had St. Joe's from Jersey play him,
and Milton from Georgia.
Milton. That's right. Yeah.
Yep. So they're under new leadership, so they haven't really stepped out and done that. But I think I'm gonna be honest with you. That's what's helped elevate our program. When we decided to do that back in 2012, and we went to Utah to play Jordan, who was the #1 ranked team in Utah at the time, and we won that ball game. And then the next year we got to play Chandler, Arizona. It just helped us become better coaches, and then it helped us understand that football is not encapsulated into a small little area. It's across the country. And then it became fun, and we've been going all over the place. And you can never be afraid to go and lose football games against quality opponents. And I think that's what some people kind of are a little bit leery about. But us, Bruce, called me in 2016, said, what do we need to do? I said, Bruce, you guys start going playing people. You got enough talent. Go play people across the country. It's going to make your team better. And sure enough, he scheduled St. Francis, and he scheduled IMG, and he beat those people, and then all of a sudden now kids are sitting there going, oh my gosh, Mater Dei is beating IMG, Bosco's beating Miami Central, or St. Xavier down in Cincinnati, and then both of us went into Texas and beat up on some Texas teams. So when you do that, you start to generate a lot of interest in your program, and that's what ultimately elevates your whole mindset in your program and the culture at which you're trying to build, that you want to go take on some of these titans across the country.
Yeah. Coach, I would be remiss if we ended this conversation and didn't mention how well your defense is playing this year. We talked about your offense, quarterback, running back, wide receivers. I'm sure you've got like 7'8", 400-pound offensive linemen like you always have, right? But your defense is playing really, really good football. They hold a very strong St. Francis team to 323 total yards. Talk about how your defense is it a surprise to you this year, or is it just par for the course?
No, it's not a surprise. I mean, I think it first starts off with the top, and I think our defensive coordinator is one of the tops in the country. Chris King's been with me for 16 years now, so there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of consistency on that staff. My D-line coach has been here for 16 years. And then DB coach has been here for 13, and so we've got a lot of guys that are kind of really in sync with what they're trying to do. And then I have two former players from, national championship teams that are now played in college and are back, and they've added some energy and some youth to the staff. So it starts there. If you take a look at what those guys do on a week-to-week basis in terms of their preparation and their breaking down of the opponent and the schemes at which we put together, we run a college defense. And I don't, if you really dissected what we do and how we attack offenses and the positions at which we put our kids in, it's a multiple front. We're a 4-2-5 base, but we're able to jump in between an odd and an even front, and we disguise coverages and run a bunch of simulators and drop people out of coverage. It's just really sophisticated, and we got the kids that are smart enough and intelligent enough in the game of football that we can go out there and execute it. So if you start with the staff and what we're doing from a schematic standpoint, it's next level. And then you add talented football players to it, makes you a really good coach. So it's a combination of a lot of things. We have kids playing super fast. They're smart, so they know what they're doing prior to the ball being snapped. So when the ball snapped, they can just react. And a lot of times, if you're sitting back reading and you're trying to figure things out, you're going to play a lot slower. But that's not what we do. And in order to beat a St. Francis and a team that's that talented and that skilled, you have to be able to play defense with your hair on fire. And that's what we've been able to do.
Last week, we interviewed the head coach of Creekside, Georgia.
Yeah,
he had a huge victory. They demolished highly ranked DeSoto. One poll had DeSoto number 5 in America, beat him 70-28. And we asked him how he's been so successful the last 8-9 years there. And as a public school, obviously, he said, I started working the parks. and getting to know the kids when they're in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade.
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah.
With you guys, you have all these schools are so close together in your conference. You guys are all vying for the same kids.
Right.
Tell me how that's been lately. Obviously, you and Matter Day, have been dominating of late. So if you're a baller coming out of 7th, 8th grade, I'm sure the kids visiting both schools and going to your open nights and all that, whatever. Tell me how that's been in the area lately, recruiting wise.
Well, Joe, if you don't mind, I'm gonna start real quick and go off topic with the Creekside guy. Going back to my comments about how to building a program and not being afraid to go play some of these national opponents. Just a couple of years ago, Creekside came out here to play Mater Dei.
Yeah.
And they practiced here at Bosco, and I had an opportunity to talk to the head coach there. Such a good dude.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I want to build my program like what you guys have out here. So the reason why we're playing Mater Dei, we're probably not, nowhere near that level, but hopefully my kids are going to see where I want to go and where I want to take them. And lo and behold, 3 years later, now he goes out there and he beats a team from DeSoto, Texas, which, probably a lot of people didn't think they could do.
Mm-hmm.
And look at what his program has done now. So I give a lot of kudos to that guy.
Yep.
He did it. He did what a lot of us talk about. Go out there and play some people. They got their butts kicked by Mater Dei, but he didn't care. His team learned from it and he's gotten better. And then in terms of, players, to answer your question, there's so much talent here in California. We all have talent. Everybody's got really good quarterbacks. Everybody's got good skill players. A lot of people have offense and defensive linemen. There's a lot of talent. There's just a lot of people in this general vicinity. I mean, LA County alone has over 10 million people. That's a lot to draw from. And there's a lot of high schools in the close proximity. But again, I think what has happened because of the success of our programs, a lot of the talent kind of migrate toward those programs, and they migrate toward, people that are hopefully going to allow them to get to the next level. And, I think we're all trying to take advantage of that. But again, there's a lot of talent spread across. And I think that's the reason why you see such good football when our teams go out and play people across the country.
Is the Pop Warner programs big in your area?
It's not so much Pop Warner. It's a lot of there's the Snoop League, or there's some AAU stuff. There's a lot of, just different leagues, weight limitless, programs where these teams go out and, you have these pockets of the OC Buckeyes is a program, or the Long Beach, program. The IB Braves is another one, or the OG Ducks. And so these are the LA Chiefs. So these are a lot of programs that are trying to do what we're doing at the high school level, at the youth level, where they're attracting a lot of this talent. And then they're going around the country and playing some of these really talented football teams. FBU is another organization where a lot of the most talented kids go play, and then if they're exposed to programs like ours, they have an opportunity to come here and they fit the criteria that they need in order to come to a school like ours. It's a win-win for everybody.
Coach, I've got a different type of question for you, trying to get into your mindset of coaching a little bit. You don't know this about me, but I'm a sales trainer. I'm a sales guy and a sales trainer. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. And so when I work with new reps, we talk about mindset and getting a competitive edge all the time. Because I work with a lot of younger reps who are full of piss and vinegar. They're cocky. They know they've got talent. But I always tell them, at our level, everybody's got talent.
Right.
Everybody works hard. Everybody knows how to close a sale, that kind of stuff. What are you going to do to separate yourself from all these other fantastic salespeople? You're surrounded by super athletes. Mm-hmm. But you play opponents that are surrounded by super athletes. What do you communicate to your kids to get them into the mindset of doing whatever it takes to get a competitive advantage? Because I'm sure at that level, with the teams that you guys play, all these teams are loaded with great athletes. But year after year after year, you guys find yourself at the top of the mountain. How do you communicate to your kids to do what it takes or do what's necessary to get that competitive advantage?
One of the things that we talk about in our program is consistency, and doing the little things right. And we're very consistent. We're a 12-month program. So this starts in January, and we start to build the culture and we start to build the mindset at which you're talking about with everything that we do. And it's through competitions in the weight room. It's competitions academically with our studies and just trying to be better than the next guy. And, using the different phases of the season to try to build, the mindset at which you're looking for when things get challenging and things get hard. And one of the things that we try to do here at Bosco is put our kids under a tremendous amount of stress, with what we do. So that way, when they experience that in the fall, they're able to deal with it and their heart rate stays low. And they're not, freaking out and getting all panicked. And they have, a standard that has been set here at Bosco based on what the kids in the past have done and the legacy and the tradition at which they have to uphold. So there's a big responsibility with that. So as we go through, we hold our kids to a pretty high level of accountability, and make sure that the leaders and kind of the most talented guys. And again, it doesn't have to be the most skilled, talented football guys. It could be the guy that's just the best leader, the best guy academically, the best dude in the weight room, to hold the other ones to the standards which those that came before us set for all of us. I mean, the only reason why I'm on your show is because what we've been able to do,
That's right.
Through our history. And that's not lost, on our current kids. We don't just simply say, oh, we're going to forget about the past and we're going to worry about the future, because without the past and all of those lessons at which we've learned, we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we're accomplishing now. And what is really cool for me is the more kids I can come back into my program that went through it for 4 years, like the two guys that I have on defense, Suavapodi and Josh Alford, who are two former players that have come back. They come back and now they're the ones having the conversations with my players. Like today we had a senior meeting and those two are the ones that lead it. And it's just those two and the seniors. And it's not me, and they ask questions, why coach? And they're like, because this is what coach wants. And this is what we did to get to where you're at now. So I think that's the lessons at which we're learning. And I'm going to continue to build off of that human capital that I have with the staff that I have in my program, and the players and the families that all know what the expectations are. And that's the reason why we're able to go out there consistently year in and year out and achieve those goals.
Yeah, Coach, I'm a parochial kid, kindergarten through college. And, it's a real brotherhood when you go to an all boys private high school.
Right. It's different, man.
It's really a brotherhood that nobody else can really speak about. That being said, do you have a lot? You talked about the two that came back to coach. Are you getting a lot of support in 16 years? You have a lot of football alums.
Right.
You get a lot of support. Do you see them often? Do they come back? Are they part of the program?
A ton. I mean, our kids, that's one thing that I can say. And we've even had kids that have left our program, that went to other schools because they may not have been as talented, but they wanted to go play. And they were still grateful for the time and the opportunities that we provided them here at Bosco. I'm big on relationships. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why and I've been able to retain the staff that I have. I'm not the easiest guy to work with, but I think what my guys know and what our players, our families know is I care deeply about them. I love them to death. I try to provide them with everything that I possibly can in order for them to have the best experience possible, to create some memories that they're never going to forget. And we're welcoming. We want kids to come back. And like you said, Joe, to be at an all boys Catholic high school with the morals and the ethics and the things that we're trying to teach, to these kids. And you're never fully ultimately successful because you're dealing with humans, you're dealing with kids. People make mistakes, people fall into some pitfalls, in their lives, but we never turn our backs on them. And we're always looking to try to help them. And our kids know this. And when you know that you're loved and when you know that you're cared about, it makes it that much easier to come back and to feel that you're a part of something. And our kids are never very far removed from our program. And we appreciate that the most. And kids know anytime they want to come back to be a part of what we're doing, they're welcome.
That's great.
All right, Joe, last question I've got for the coach. Then you can follow it up with yours. Coach, I always ask, when you guys travel, you guys are used to that frou-frou California food, right? But you make the coast you make the trip all the way to the East Coast, and you get to sample God's kind of food down here. So when you get to Florida, what are you eating down in Florida?
Well, we're eating anything and everything we can. Some of the best food we had, I think, was probably in Texas when we went to some of that barbecue in Texas. You know, when we were in Virginia, we had some really good food in Virginia as well. We played Oscar Smith a few years back there. And then when you go down, I really want to go into the South. I want to play in Georgia. I want to get into, you know, maybe Louisiana, Alabama, somewhere down there to really let our kids experience some of that Southern cooking. You know, we went to Hawaii, and we have a lot of Polynesians on our team, so we're able to eat a lot of seafood and Polynesian food there in Hawaii from the island. You know, but I will tell you this: we did go into Cincinnati and had some of that Skyline chili, and no, it wasn't for us. You know, we didn't enjoy that too much. But we do try to experience different cultures, different areas of the country, and I think that's something that we try to do here, is provide kids with a bunch of cool memories and allow them to experience some things they may not normally be able to do. And, you know, for Bosco, we've stepped foot in the Pacific Ocean. We've stepped foot in the Atlantic Ocean. And this year we got to step foot in the Gulf of America. So, you know, for us, it's been kind of cool to be able to do all those things and to be in those three bodies of water and experience that. I mean, it's really cool.
That's awesome.
And Larry, I never thought we'd be talking on this subject, but St. John Bosco and Lowndes has a common opponent this year.
We Coach and I talked about that on the pregame.
Bradenton Manatee.
Yeah.
You beat him convincingly. You both beat him convincingly. So maybe you could talk your coach into going out to Cali next year.
Well, hey, if you look at the halftime score, because we only got to play a half, and I think Lowndes was up 42-0 at half, and we were only up 31. So,
listen,
you know,
Coach, I'm impressed that you knew that.
Yeah, I looked because you know, obviously, I'm rooting. I was rooting for Manatee. They're really good people there. I wanted to see them be successful, and I think Coach Green and what he's doing, that's the formula. You know, it's going to take him time to build what he wants. He wants a national program. He's going to get there. But you have to go through some of these heartaches and some of these tough times in order to get there. And now his kids have seen from Lowndes, they've seen from St. John Bosco, guys, that's what it looks like. That's what we want to get to. And they have such a young team. He's going to be able to build that over the years. But again, you know, you look at it, Lowndes has the edge. So, you know, maybe they should be ranked up a little higher.
Well, listen, give us a couple years. I want to invite your Braves down to Valdosta. I'll take you. Well, I won't, but I'm sure we can find some barbecue from you locally here as well.
Hey, Larry, remember when I came to visit? What's the place you took me to? Do you remember?
Woodstack Barbecue.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you know, when it comes to food, it's funny. My offensive coordinator is kind of a guru, and we've gone all over the country to visit places, you know, as a staff. And we spent a lot of time at Georgia, a lot of time at Alabama and Clemson. You know, through the years. And I tell you what, those shrimp and grits and, you know, being able to go to some of those barbecue places in Georgia and in Atlanta, you know, we got off the plane in Atlanta one year and we wanted to go to a breakfast place. And, you know, it was kind of in a seedy neighborhood. And our guy's like, it doesn't matter. We're going to have a great place. And we go in to eat at this place, which was an old house. It was just somebody's house. Go inside, and they had some of the best Southern food that you can probably imagine, the biscuits and the gravy. And we're sitting there. And we're just at a table, and there's 5 of us, and all these 2 good old boys come walking up, and they're like, "Hey, are you guys from that school out there in California?" And we're like looking at these guys, like, "Yeah, how do you know about us? You guys were on Netflix. You were on QB1. We recognize you." And we're taking pictures with these guys from Georgia, recognized us in this tiny little restaurant. I don't even know if it was a restaurant. It might have been someone's house. But we were having food. But yeah, food's different story down in the South. We really appreciate that.
Listen, down here, Coach, house and restaurant are interchangeable.
We learned that in Athens, too. Athens, you pull up to some of these places, and you're like, what in the world is this place? But they got some of the best food. And
correct.
It makes me want to get to the spring faster.
Coach, do you ever watch the Southeast Conference Network? They have this show, True South.
I don't think I've watched the network, but
it's a great show. And they talk about, if you're around the Southeast Conference, when you go from city to city, the coolest places to eat.
Oh, all right. Well,
keep an eye on it. It's called True South. It's on every weekend.
Right. Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for tonight. Coach Jason Negro from the St. John Bosco Braves. Congratulations on a huge win, and best of luck to the rest of your season.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you guys having me on. And I wish, all of our opponents the very best in travels, safe seasons, everybody in our league. This is just fun to be a part of, and hopefully we can keep it going for many years to go.
Yes,
And
sir.
Coach, I'm hoping we see each other on Halloween night, Bosco versus Mater Day.
Yeah. We have our crosstown
we got a game
rival
Friday first to Joe worry about. Stop my
I know. I'm just saying,
I'm not ready for Halloween.
Next time we see each other, hopefully that'll be the night.
There you
Hey,
go.
Joe, listen, I'm going to invite you down to South Georgia on Halloween night. Lowndes and Valdosta mix it up in our Wintersville Classic every year. It's going to be an exciting time this year. So, guys, thank you so much for a fantastic conversation tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, and go Braves.
See you, Coach.